This is the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, which is in charge of overall operations for the station. The Payload Operations Integration Center at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center is in charge of working with the crew on science on board the station and monitoring autonomous payloads as well. There's a group of scientists at Marshall in Huntsville, Alabama, that are leveraging the vantage point of the International Space Station in Earth orbit to provide some unsurpassed images of Earth rather than of space. The iServe camera turns its attention to our home planet, taking hundreds of images a week to record the changing landscape of the environment. The folks at Marshall work with the iServe team to ensure the camera records the desired images as the station orbits the Earth. Bill Hubscher at Marshall caught up with Burgess Howell, the iServe principal investigator, who shared some recently captured images.
We've shot about 40 or 45,000 frames. Don't have the count handy right now. Our normal operation mode is we shoot 3 frames per second. And we start before we reach a target and end afterwards. So a normal target we'll be getting anywhere from 30 to 150 frames. Now there are some targets where we've been acquiring a lot more data than that. The first one is an area called Los Glaciares. It's a national park in Argentina. It's right on the Argentine and Chilean border. And it's particularly significant because it's one of the few areas where there are glaciers, specifically a glacier called Perito Moreno, which is actually growing. Most of the glaciers in that area, in that particular glaciation field there, are shrinking. But Perito Moreno is growing, and there's a lot of research there trying to figure out exactly what's going on, why this one particular area, as opposed to the other areas, are increasing. Glaciation is one of those things that has it's a fingerprint of what the current climate is and how things may be trending. So glaciation studies around the world are very important. The next one is Lake Titicaca. This particular image is on the northwestern shore of Titicaca, right at the border between Peru and Bolivia. Titicaca is a very important area. It's a huge local fishery. It's very important to the local area because of the tourism business there. And it also is an indicator of the health of the planet. As the water level rises and falls, and as the water quality increases and decreases, it's a good indicator of what's going on generally in the environment. The next image that we have is the Upper Nile in Sudan. This is a late afternoon shot. You can see there's a pink glow cast across the landscape from the setting sun there. The Nile, of course, is critical for agriculture in the area. Most of the population in the desert environments live along riverbanks. The Nile, of course, is the focus of the population in that area. What you see here is a set of villages that are interspersed with agriculture along the banks of the Nile. The Nile itself is the source both of the water and the fertilization for those fields. The people in those areas depend on the agriculture that's in their local area to survive. And modifications to the environment, the Nile has been modified over the last 50 years or so to have some significant effect on the ability of the people to conduct their agricultural activities. Next image we've got here is a volcano. This is Volcan San Miguel down in El Salvador. One of the activities that we try to keep up with here is monitoring as many volcanoes as possible. We like to be sure that we got a good baseline data set. Volcan San Miguel is interesting to us because it erupted very recently. It was active as late as late December of last year, 2013. If you look closely at this image, you'll see that there's a white area immediately around the cone. That's the ash fall from the most recent eruption. Around that, there's a pinkish tan area. Those are pyroclasts that were spit out by the volcano during the eruption. And then downhill, you can see in a few places where the sparks from the volcano have lit off and burned some of the surrounding landscape, the forest at the base of the mountain there. The last image that I was going to show you today was Cerro Chicot. Cerro Chicot is an area in Guatemala. The image that you see here is a spot where they've been having persistent landslides. If you look closely, you can see that the land has slipped. The landslide is moving from upper right to lower left toward the river there. And you can see that the river itself has widened at the base of that hill because of the influx of material coming down the hill. This particular landslide is persistent and ongoing. It's been going on for quite some time now. It affects the local population, that it's dangerous for them, of course, but it also is destroying some of the agricultural areas as well as modifying the river flow downstream. These are images that we consider fairly significant for a variety of purposes, a variety of reasons. Not just because they're pretty, which we happen to think that they are, but because they look at, they are pertinent to specific areas of the research that Servier is involved with and that NASA supports in general.
Howell and the iServe group are now creating a searchable database that would allow anybody to who has access to the internet to search the photos that they've been taking. We'll let you know once they get that online.